Yep, yes, please. All right, 6 o'clock. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Directors of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District of the County of Jefferson, State of Colorado, will hold a regular meeting at 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 9th, 2022 at 13919 West Utah Avenue, Lakewood, Colorado 80228. This meeting will be held for the purpose of conducting such business as may come before the board. This meeting is open to the public. Virtual meeting option for those who may not be able to attend in person. The district will offer the option of participating in this meeting by a video/conference call. To attend, please go to https://us06web06.us06.j//895-332-25776, or you can call 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting ID 895-3322-5776. To troubleshoot issues with the connection at the time of the meeting, please follow the link https://support.zoom.us/HC//EN-US//sections//200305593-troubleshooting. If you still experience issues, you can email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org and our IT staff will assist you as soon as possible. The district does not discriminate on the basis of race, age, national origin, color, creed, religion, sex, sexual orientation, or disability in the provision of services. People with disabilities needing reasonable accommodation to attend or participate in a district board meeting can call 303-985-1581 or email customerservice@greenmountainwater.org for assistance. Please give notice as far in advance as possible so we can accommodate your request. I'm going to open agenda item number 1, call to order and declaration of a quorum. Jeff Baker present.
Tom Hooks present.
Dave Wickman.
Jen Morgan present.
Roger Wendell.
We have all 5 directors present. I'm going to declare a quorum. We're going to close out agenda item number 1. And we're going to go to agenda item 2, directors matters, disclosures matters. Do the directors have anything to disclose? I see no hands. We'll close agenda item number 2. I'm going to open up agenda item number 3, approval of additions to and deletions from the agenda. I would like to, I guess I need a motion. I've got a few things to add. I want a motion to Sam, I'm going to ask Katie Gill. Katie, can you unmute yourself? Katie Gill.
Hello.
Would you like to, we have a section in tonight's agenda where we're talking with other people, elected officials, etc. Would it be okay to add you, or would you like to weigh in on anything on tonight's agenda?
Well, I only just, can you hear me? I only just heard about this, and I am attending another meeting. I'm presenting at a Bike Jeffco meeting at 6:30, and I would be interested in any questions that you guys have. I can speak in very general terms, but I would want to make sure that any specifics would be something that our staff, I mean, I don't represent the city of Morrison. I don't represent our whole board. I just am myself as a single trustee, right? So anything I say is not representative necessarily. I can't speak for the whole board, and I can't speak for our staff. And so since I haven't had an opportunity to pull something together that would be a specific researched answer to the questions that you might have, I wouldn't want to get into too much depth, but I guess I would be happy to answer some general questions.
We could probably have a casual dialogue, or just open it up, you know, and keep it casual. If that would be all right. I just wanted to ask if we could have your permission.
Yeah,
And
I had previously decided that I wasn't going to do that, but I will just try to keep my remarks very brief. And then, like I said, I have to leave at about 6:25 to present in another meeting, and I'll be back, I would say, probably around 7:15 from that meeting.
So I'm gonna make the motion to add Katie Gill after, to agenda item 5. You can hang in till after public comment, and then we can just have a quick conversation with her since she's here. And then the second part of my motion is to add, I will call it subset E. I want to discuss FICA under directors matters. And then I want to add also a C and D under legal matters. I want to talk about some Big Sky motion to dismiss, and a Fossil Ridge IGA. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
So I have a second. Do we have discussion?
I didn't quite catch what the last two were.
So I will do number C under legal matters will be Big Sky. I'm going to request a motion to dismiss from Scott Gessler and talk about some Big Sky stuff. And if Dylan needs to put us in executive session, we'll roll into that. And then I'm adding D, where I want to kick off the Fossil Ridge IGA discussion.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays, so the motion passes. Are there any other further additions or deletions to the agenda for tonight? Okay, I'm going to close agenda item number 3. I'm going to open up agenda item number 4, public comment. Limit 5 minutes per person per pass motion of the Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Board of Directors, May 11, 2021. Members of the public wishing to address the board during public comment period are asked to keep comments civil and related to the items in the agenda or to the conduct of district business. Members of the public wishing to address the board will be recognized by the board to maintain proper decorum. Since Green Mountain Water and Sanitation District Board values your input, we always offer additional opportunities for the public to provide comments by using the district's email system or by phoning into customer service in the event they do not get on during the meeting during the period set aside for public comment. So I will open up public comment. Do we have anybody in the room that would like to speak? We have Alex Plotkin in the room. You have 5 minutes, sir.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you for having me tonight. And I just sent some documents to Mr. Tyus to be distributed to the board and Mr. Wood and anybody else who's interested. I'll try to be brief. A former city council member who is now one of the directors sent out an email claiming that he had joined the GMWSD board to heal some sort of a division resulting from prior accusations in the recall. Here's the thing, the board was functioning just fine before this individual joined the board. 3 board members with the overriding support of the community stood in the way of allowing the district to be bullied by Big Sky and other parties. Instead of supporting those 3 directors, the former council member ran against one of them in the recall in the fall of 2021 and lost 3-1. Speaking of Big Sky, the same individual launched into a drawn-out boast about their previous experience in the government. Then they talked about how important it is to listen to the people. The 3 directors who had to contend with a recall actually listened to the people who, in no uncertain terms, expressed where they stand on providing extraterritorial sewer service. But let's examine the record. I filed some court requests with the city of Lakewood and have the results here today again, which were sent to Mr. Tyus. Please distribute those to the board. First, there is the minutes of the city council meeting from September 22nd, 2014. This is when the council held a vote to approve the Big Sky service plan. If you look at the vote breakdown, page 5, bottom, 1 council person voted no. And that former council member is not in the room with us today. Also on page 5, examine this bit. Bear, as in Kristen Bear, White, Bear, and Ankley, replied, it would be the developer who would pass these costs on to the home builders, who would pass those on to the residents as an increased purchase in the price of their homes. Yet, the recent publications by Colorado reporters would bear to differ. Second, there are the minutes of the city council meeting from August 28, 2006. This is when the Solterra vote was held. And again, there were some rather interesting comments as related to who would truly bear the cost of the metro districts. So when we talk about listening to the people, where were the first, second, and whatever readings on the above items? And how is it that the majority of the council, one of the current Green Mountain Board of Directors included, would make a decision based on such bad information and without truly listening to the people? Many citizens are now aware of the cost of the Big Sky litigation to the district. Plus, Solterra Council at one point threatened to sue the district. The same former city council member claims that they're the one here to heal the rifts and listen to the people, when in reality, they were in a group of people who enabled the creation of Big Sky, while the board members who knew nothing about it until their election in 2018 had to contend with the consequences. The rest, as they say, is history. One has to wonder, why were the above documents not attached to the email that the individual had sent as a record of their accomplishments in the government service? I would like to remind the public who it is that indeed did listen to them versus those who only claim have done so and will lecture the current board on what to do. If you don't like the process the board is using, just make a motion for a process improvement instead of sneaking behind the board's back. It is, as you said yourself, a democratic body after all. I respectfully request that these comments be entered into the minutes verbatim, along with the documents I had presented. I will provide both electronically. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have anyone online who would like to speak? Please raise your hand. Okay, gone. I'm going to close out public comment. And I'm going to open up the agenda item, which is now 5. I want to welcome Katie Gill from Morrison. I appreciate you joining our board meeting. You're one of the only people. We invited several tonight, and I'm really glad you attended. So I'd like to just open up a casual dialogue. I don't think there's anything exact questions or whatever, but I'll open it up to the board and with you, Katie, to just have a casual dialogue.
Hi, Katie. I want to say thank you. This is Karen Morgan. We spoke on the phone. You had a lot of good information for me, and I did follow up and talk to the town manager about her understanding of the engineering that's going on out there and what's going on. She and you all agree that the town is building a waste treatment plant out there, that Red Rocks Ranch is planning on being served, and it will be served from the town of Morrison. She also mentioned that the new IGA will also cover Vandermeer properties. So those two are covered there. I was looking at, as I talked to you, some of the things that we have learned is just that the developers put in things that I'm not looking for in the beginning of a process of building, and that is maybe they're oversizing the pipes, maybe they're expecting rebates, maybe they're planning for future developments. And I talked a little bit about things that you could look for in a contract. That would be lessons learned from what we did here to set yourself up for not having, so that Morrison doesn't get trapped like we are, thinking that, oh, we'll approve development later, but it's already in your contract that you kind of let it go and you oversized and you paid for all of this stuff. So I think that's something for us to explore further, but I appreciate at least getting our feet wet on that subject. So thank you for your time.
Oh, if I could add one more thing, and thanks, Karen, I did appreciate our conversation as well. I just want to say regarding the IGA as it relates to Vandermeer, that is just that the IGA provides that Morrison within the IGA has the right to provide sewer and water to those Vandermeer properties, but we don't have an agreement to do so. It's just allowed in the new IGA. It wasn't previously authorized by the previous IGA because it's in unincorporated Jefferson County.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions or anything from the directors? Okay, yeah, I appreciate you at least, having that conversation with us and attending. It really does mean a lot, so we appreciate that. Hope to have some good future dialogue on what's going on in these areas and how it affects all of us, so I appreciate it. Oh. Is it okay to recognize a member of the public to speak? I'm gonna ask the directors. Okay. Mr. Plotkin.
And Katie, my core request was by no means, intended with any maliciousness. I was just looking for the same information that Director Morgan was looking for.
Absolutely understood. And that's why I was a little bit hesitant to join the conversation, because I can't speak to the technical drawings. And so I haven't, I don't have that level of expertise. That's really, as you requested, that's something that goes to staff. And so I understand there were some issues there, but the wastewater treatment plant, it is, we already have a wastewater treatment plant that has more capacity than we need. And the expansion of the wastewater treatment plant is probably, that's what would be serving Red Rocks Ranch. The expansion of that to, a greater capacity.
Any further comments, questions, dialogue? Katie, do you have anything further for us?
Well, I do want to say that I mean, I guess I can only speak for myself, but I feel comfortable saying that the town of Morrison really does want to be a cooperating agency with you guys, with the city of Lakewood. I know there are layers upon layers of jurisdictional complexity with all of the various metro districts and all of the different developers, with Lakewood, unincorporated Jefferson County, and Morrison, all involved in the Rooney Valley. And I think we've been through a rough patch, and it really is Morrison's intention to be honest, cooperative, and transparent. And so I hope that we can have an open dialogue. And since I'm not an expert on those utilities issues, utilities, it's all you guys do. So smaller piece of what we do. So I would hope that additional questions can come to us and come to our staff, and that we'll have a positive relationship moving forward.
Really appreciate that. And once again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate you dialing in tonight. It means a lot to us. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close out this section here, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Morrison. I'm going to move to agenda item 6, which is approval.
Would it be appropriate for me to respond to the audience question?
I don't see any problem.
Okay. Anybody else, directors, you okay? We're
Dylan's okay, I'm okay.
There's no legal issue.
okay.
All right. Alex, what I tried to say when I was running is that you learn a lot in the school of hard knocks. I was not born with all the answers, but I've made a lot of errors along the way, and in doing so, become more knowledgeable. Now, a decade ago, when this big sky thing came before city council, I hadn't the foggiest idea what the heck a metro district was. And at that particular meeting, we were again given the surprise. It was like, oh, it appears out of nowhere, here's an issue. I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. I made a motion to please table this for a couple weeks for me to look into it. I was told by our city attorney, no, it's a crisis. It has to be done tonight. And therefore, you may have noticed I have this inclination, I don't like any of this. I have to do it tonight routine. I want to take it home and look at it. And that comes from part of that particular incident. So I had to do it tonight. That attorney and the rest of the council was, oh, there's no problems. Everybody's doing it. If we have any problems, they'll have to come to you for approval. They just basically lied to the teeth. And as a result of that, as a young councilman a decade ago, I made a mistake and went along with the flow and voted with everybody else. But I learned from those mistakes. And that's why I'm far more cautious and skeptical now with dealing with those developers. My first encounters with developers were not good and I made some mistakes. Yeah, that's the story behind that.
If I may, the board,
Well, I don't want to get into a big debate, so just to keep it brief, please.
I appreciate the response, Mr. the Director Whitman, and to your point, I witnessed something similar July 11th, the city council meeting. This July 11th council meeting that just passed, as far as some of the misinformation presented to the city council. What I do particularly take issue is if any insinuations to the integrity of the other directors in the room will be made behind their back. So I will appreciate in the future if such, even if there was not an intent of any of the messaging, if such things were avoided if possible. I have served with some individuals in this room and I can trust them beyond most other elected officials in this community. If we could just keep that clean, please. I will pass it on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm going to open up agenda item number 6, approval of the minutes. I'm going to motion to approve the June 28, 2022 special board meeting minutes. Do I have a second?
Oh, I did have one question. They're listed as being a special meeting of June 28th. Or no, it's listed as the regular meeting. Wasn't that a special meeting as opposed to a regular?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if that makes a difference. or
Oh,
not.
yeah, I'll just.
So my motion's correct. It's corrected on the printing of the minutes. So with the edited version. Do I have to amend that now?
I mean, not really.
Okay, so do I have a second?
Second.
Dave Whitman seconded. Discussion?
Just one comment to the whoever's putting these together. You know, we have that big old long paragraph about the public comment and all that sort of stuff. We do that every meeting. I'm thinking it's kind of a waste of paper to print that in every minute. So I would suggest unless it's a problem, I just leave it off. Any reason why we need all that comment?
I don't see a reason. It's on the agenda, so I don't think it needs to be in the minutes.
I think they just repeat the agenda.
I would guess that they probably use the agenda as the template for the meeting,
Yeah.
the minutes, and then just
Sure.
fill that in. It is not an essential aspect of the minutes.
Do we need a motion to strike that then from the minutes in the future? Can we just,
I just asked Alex, or whoever's doing the
is
minutes.
Alex on or we?
We're recording it, then I'll listen to it later. I can send them an email.
Yeah.
That'd be good. Good catch on that. So,
Yeah, it's not a biggie, but saving paper.
hey, I'm into optimization. It all adds up. So
Director Baker read the agenda. That'll cover it pretty much.
that would be good. So Director Baker read the agenda. All right, do I have any further discussion on this? All in favor of voting for the motion, say aye. Aye. The meetings minutes have passed. Going to close out the approval of the minutes.
However, I do have a couple of questions. Where are the minutes for July 12th and July 19th?
Yeah, we haven't fully received them yet. I'll send, we just received them last Thursday, so I'll send them out tomorrow, because I didn't want to bring it up before this meeting. So our contractor sent them out.
You got a signature on the page 3.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, this is not July.
Any other further discussion? All right, I'm going to close agenda item 6, and we're going to open up agenda item 7, district manager report.
Yes, and I was directed, we'll try to make this brief, I'm going to save some time because we have a lot of things to cover. So first of all, just let me ask any questions on the report. It's the same format. We have, we start off with recognitions, dashboards, and then we go into project management, infrastructure planning, and operations. Any questions?
Does that mean you're not going to go through the slides?
Yes.
Well, I had asked to
Which
make,
is fine. I just don't know if I should be addressing the things or if I'm waiting until we see questions being.
I think he's
You're
asking
done?
that we should have already reviewed them, and if anyone has any comments or questions, to go ahead and address them now.
Yes, I do. Director Baker, your FICA is probably the same as my questions on the engineering. You have slide for engineering stuff. So would you like to discuss that? Infrastructure?
Yeah,
plans?
so we're throwing acronyms around like everybody understands them. So in my world, the acronym FICA is Facility Infrastructure Condition Assessment, FICA.
Oh,
see, in my word, that's
Yeah, I
social
was-
security.
yeah, it's the same thing. I put down social security.
No, so I'm trying to be clear with that's why I always pre-qualify my acronym coming from my old world, which I'm now retired from, but
What's it stand for?
FICA equals Facility Infrastructure Condition Assessment. And what that does is we created an algorithm of all the assets on our property, the capital stuff. And we would come up with an algorithm that you could rack and stack. And it incorporates everything, age, risk, criticality of programs, et cetera. And that would bubble what needs to be at the top of the capital project list. And then you would have your descending order, which would make it easier because we're kind of, like I said, I would love to see this board get to where we could spend more time on board stuff rather than processes. So if we had a FICA plan and we created that and we have a list, I'm just using the 100 projects, say we had 100 projects for the district versus our capital expenditures for each year, we could see 1 to 10 years out and what we're going to do and why we're going to do it and justification for it. So I'm still waiting. I reached out to somebody who's currently a high-level manager out there. I'm pretty sure I'll get my hands on it, but I do have to ask for permission for that. But I really liked it. I worked with it a lot. Did we pay attention to it? No, because what it did is, to the executive staff, it had a lot of meaning at our level, but when it went up there, it equaled money to the executive staff. And they just didn't like that. So they would, it's like, well, if you don't like the bad news, don't ask for it. So we, that was kind of the battle we always had. But we had good data metrics to support why we had certain projects at a certain point on the spreadsheet.
And you are the executive now, so maybe you do both sides and help. So I just wanted to make sure, because I did want to address that. That was in the dashboard here, not the dashboard, but the manager report. So we'll talk about that more later then.
Did you have an acronym you needed to explain?
No, but you mentioned that before. I didn't know what it meant, but you
Okay.
mentioned it at the last meeting, so I was assuming that's what that was. The other thing I wanted to ask about was the Ravine Bridge. I saw that you had a meeting about that, and Lakewood is doing erosion control already. They are planning on that.
Yeah, so on August 2nd, we had a meeting with some officials from the city of Lakewood, and they're looking at planning to control the erosion before they start the construction of the crossing. So because the erosion, controlling the erosion is contributing to the downfall of the crossing. So that's the first step.
Okay, well, that is wonderful. I'm shocked. If that's the first, I was not thinking about that, is then we're going to bring construction crews in there and tear up the erosion control.
Yeah, well, yeah, so the first step, meeting with engineering in the city of Lakewood engineers, is to control the erosion, down, the drainage that's causing the around the crossing to collapse. So that's the first thing they're gonna do, then start working on the crossing itself.
Okay, I'm sorry, that was more questions than who was going to be doing the erosion control?
City of Lakewood's working with Merrick Engineering.
They are doing that before they're bringing in the construction crews for the,
Yes,
do we have bids for the new crossing?
we have an existing bid, but that was just one bid from one company, so we'll probably have to rebid it. The bid came in, I think, last year, so probably when the plan is to build pilings to hold up the new crossing, so that will definitely have to probably go back out the bid.
Yeah.
It's a hard area to get into. I guess the reason why they only got one bid last time, because a lot of people looked at it, a lot of people felt they couldn't get in there with their equipment.
And I think we did authorize that bid to go out a couple meetings ago. Do you have any plans? When do you know when that will go out?
The bid,
Yes.
Terry, you on here? I think they're not bidding the actual pilings yet. They're trying to control the erosion first.
We were updating the contracts, Karen, as we discussed at last meeting. We also met with Lakewood on site regarding the drainage. The directors had said, while we're at this, let's do the drainage as part of it. And meeting with Lakewood, we had a very positive meeting with them. They are willing to grant a license for the drainage, so we don't have to get any construction easements or that sort of thing. And what we were talking about on site, there seemed to be agreement among staff and Lakewood, was mitigate that drainage, then do the bridge abutment repair.
I guess I don't remember grouping the erosion control in with that, because that was actually, I thought Lakewood would never do, and that's not on our property, that's not what we're doing. So is Lakewood planning on doing that, or are you saying it's lumping in with ours?
One of the board members, I'm going to forget which one, it would probably be in the meeting minutes, suggested, while we're at it, let's just get the drainage done and not depend on Lakewood. And we were moving forward based on that feedback at one of the board meetings. Jeff, do you recall, or?
Doesn't sound right. I can at least excuse myself out of that. That doesn't sound like something I would sign on for. I think we need to. This is the problem when you have these projects when they're running, kind of. There's nothing making this time bound. And so we have all these escapements, and I think we need to cinch down on what's going to be the date for A, B, and C, and then, stick to our dates. So, now we have this erosion control abatement. Is Lakewood doing that, or are we doing that?
That is not our responsibility. It's not our.
Well, right,
property.
we just paid our
cannot do that.
$50-some stormwater fees, right? Which I believe is, in theory, supposed to pay for this kind of stuff.
My remembrance of where we were at was you wanted to see cost. You thought we need to do it this way, not reroute it, because it'll be cheaper to do it this way.
Correct.
So I said, well, let's get the bids and see if that's true.
Yeah, because I wanted the supports, right?
Right. That's what I thought we approved. We're sending out the bids, and as of last time, this work was 90% done. We can't send it out to anybody else. So everything was written up and we can send it out to bid. We cannot do anything with it. What? Does anybody disagree? I have no desire to be fixing the
Well,
erosion
the
control.
90% is in the design level, but you can't rebid the engineering.
Okay,
So
but we still need to be rebid.
right, but the design that we were talking about, I believe that was just for the engineering.
Okay,
So when you're at the 90%, it's pretty much a done deal and
okay.
wrapped up. So we were sticking with Merrick on the
Yes.
Ravine Bridge. The next step is Merrick is supposed to be, Jeff, we need to be sending out bids for this project, whatever the different levels of it. So if we're waiting now for Lakewood, we need to know what their plan is, because if we're doing that first, We need to know when they're gonna start, when they're gonna finish.
They don't have it, from what I'm hearing, they do not plan, they plan on allowing us to pay for it if we would like to do that. Would we like to do that?
How much does something that cost?
Well, that's insane. Here we go again. I mean, this
That
is
was my-
semantics. To me, it's semantics. How is Lakewood cooperating with us when we get stuck with the bill?
That's
Because
what
they
I-
offered to go to lunch and now we gotta pick up the whole 9 yards.
And that was I said that,
Well, we can do it either way. We can get the other document out. I recollect, and I can't remember exactly, but I thought Todd or Roger had brought up, why don't we take care of the drainage while we're at it? And just get it done and not depend on Lakewood. And we can look back at the minutes. And so we moved forward and set up the meeting with Lakewood based on that at the previous meeting. And we can drop that and proceed with just the bridge repair. We don't have any issue with that.
Do we need their license to move forward?
Not for the bridge repair, but if we were going to affect drainage repair, then yes.
So my next, we're having this whole conversation again. My next quick question, Terry, is if we're gonna do pilings and we go down and we hit bedrock or whatever, does it matter how much it erodes at this point?
You know, we can probably let it go because also, Jeff, we were going to rock nail and shotcrete the surface underneath to help stem the erosion too. So we could let the drainage go and try to push that back on Lakewood. We were just responding to what we thought the board was looking for based on a meeting ago. And
Okay,
staff and I set up a meeting with Lakewood to discuss the drainage.
went over to my geologist now.
I would like to drop the erosion control that Lakewood should do and keep going forward with getting bids for the new crossing
Okay.
so that we can see what the actual costs are and what we're dealing with and what the engineers come up with as for solutions.
Okay, we can get that out very quickly based on that. We were operating, as I said, and I think staff, my recollection is staff thought the same, but we'll drop that. We won't deal with it. And we will get the bridge abutment repair documents out.
Thank you, Terry. I know we go around in circles, so I appreciate you.
Sorry, Terry, this has gone on for so long. I mean, it just, I can't remember. I'm struggling what I did last week and we're talking about months and a couple of years ago. And we did what, over a couple of different boards. So, Dylan, do you need to now send a letter again to the city of Lakewood that, stormwater erosion control, that should be your swim lane? That's not our business.
Do you want me to?
Yes, please. Does the board agree with that? This is not our swim lane, man.
It's not?
We just all paid our special stormwater
We did.
assessment, which this is stormwater. So I don't know why this ends up becoming our world all the time, but we need to stop it and send a formal letter, if you wouldn't mind.
And for clarification, this structure is going to prohibit people from crossing.
That's the next part. I took a walk and it was brought to my attention before the meeting that we have no barricades up, which was also approved before. Now, I know that is part of what we recently reapproved Terry looking at on those contracts. But we asked for those to be closed off forever ago. What's the status of that? Anybody? There are no signs. Do we have signs?
The signs were stolen, so we put up the signs were stolen, the barricades that were existing were tore down, so the present design that Merrick is working on is putting in better barricades that cannot be torn down.
Okay,
How about just welding the signs to whatever the barricade is to, so.
Mhm. And Karen, that was one of the charges, as I understood it. We were adding very substantial barricade as part of the design, and we have that pretty much fleshed out.
okay.
That was the fan design, correct, Terry? Like a oval or circular fan?
We were looking at that, and then we looked at another option, Jeff, because they will need access to the to the crossing, with a gate in it. After talking with staff, they will need access to get in there, maybe if they have to look, do any maintenance on the pipe or check the bridge. So, it would include a fully locking gate as part of it, and we've designed that into it. Because there will be a time staff would have to get through the barricade.
That's fine. I just would like it to be a vandal-proof, 3-inch
Yes.
heavy-duty gate, so.
It's heavy duty, and this is being mounted to the twin T structurally. So it's not like chain link fence that they've torn down half a dozen times. And we're removing the chain link fence that runs the length of the twin Ts, getting rid of those, putting a barricade with signage. Yes.
Okay, so can we get some sort of a time commitment, Jeff or Terry, on the barriers and then when we're gonna put the bids out and close the bids and down select for a contractor?
Now, we were going to include the barricades with the bid, if that made sense to us.
Yeah, it did, that's fine.
That package,
Okay.
rather than two separate projects.
That being said, that's all the more reason,
Crossings.
all the more reason to get this rolling, because we're at a probably at some liability level with this bridge.
Okay. We'll have it out on the street,
Secure.
so that the next board meeting, it's advertised, and hopefully we'll get good contractor interest. I have talked to the previous bidder. We'll see.
Is there any other parts of that contract then? So when we said update the contracts, and that was including for those barricades, that was part of the whole package. What else was in there? Do we need to talk about anything else then? This will be for barricades and for that one ravine crossing. Is there anything else in there?
No, there was just in talking to contractors, we were going to add a little more element to the design definition, but otherwise it's the same, essentially the same. Yes.
Terry, do we have an existing access for pipe maintenance there? Is there a manhole or anything on there clean out?
There's a manhole either side. And in fact, that sewer was lined as part of the 2020 project. So it has the CIPP lining. So, it has a projected long life, the pipe itself. Yep. They can clean it with their truck. From the one side, they can get through the manhole and clean that. Yep.
Last question is, did the signs, just want to make sure the signs had legal language. It wasn't just a caution. It was, we're closing these because the district cannot operate park facilities for the statute, like we talked
We
about.
created a legal sign, and that's what they made. They had the legal language.
Did it say that? Because I didn't see it when it was up.
I didn't
Did
see
you?
it when it was up.
Yeah, I emailed a picture of the signs of the board, so it's,
Okay. I
he's
missed it.
not cross, it had to be in a language where anybody could understand it, because it had to have the actual figure on it too, so. They're gone now, so once we build the barricades, we can build the signs.
Can you send me another picture then? Because I missed it. A picture of the sign.
Okay. Anything else on Ravine or anything else, questions or comments to Jeff on the district manager report?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. Jeff, do you have anything further?
No, that's it. Have any questions? I sent a lot of emails out, so feel free to reply to any email with any concerns, questions, updates, and I'll respond as quickly as possible.
Do we need to report that to Lakewood Police or Jefferson County? We had signs stolen or anything? Is that
Make a report. They won't do anything. In my experience.
yeah, in all of our experience,
Yeah.
current America, unless you murder somebody, you're not held liable. Okay. All right. All right, I'm gonna close out agenda item 7 then, and we're going to open up agenda item 8, capital and construction projects. The subset A, sewer pipeline, Bear Creek Golf Course.
So we had the pre-construction kickoff meeting on that also on August 2nd. And then with both the managers of the golf course, engineering, and the American West contractors to come up with a game plan to start the process this fall due to where most of the work is being done on the golf course. And then also staff and engineering walk the golf course to check the location of manholes and access points to install the liner and also install bypass pumps.
Which we don't have now, correct?
Bypass pumping?
Yeah.
Yeah, the contractor, so the bypass pumping will look like portable diesel pumps that pump out of one manhole to another, and they'll set it up in perfect timeframes to minimize the impact on the golf course. And the timing of the liner, so when the line as quickly as possible, so the liners installed, the bypass at certain times of the day, working with the management of the golf course.
Is that a rental equipment, the diesel pumps, or is that our stuff? Or?
It's in the contract for American West to rent them, so they're looking at Sunbelt or Velocity.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure we didn't have to get an air permit or something. for it.
Contractor's responsibility.
Okay, all right. Any questions on the Bear Creek Golf Course? All right, let's go on to the collection sewer pipe Kipling.
So
We have that design complete and we'll be submitting it to Lakewood tomorrow for their review. We've also been working with Excel because there's an 1.25 inch gas line, which we're moving, a few feet, so it's less obstruction for the new sewer layout. And they've been so far pretty cooperative. We don't know their timing, but it's nice to get them on board ahead of the game. Moving, so the gas lines move before the contractor gets in there and mobilizes.
Any expected timing on this, Terry?
The Lakewoods can vary quite a bit, Jeff. We have a pretty good working relationship with them. And I've talked to Ben Neiman, their engineer, who would be reviewing this. However, this is also CDOT. So while Lakewood administers it, we can't control CDOT very well. We're hoping it'll go smoothly and it's a normal 4-week type review with Lakewood, but the wild card is CDOT and what that might take.
Do they operate, is that like a Jeffco, Jefferson County extension of CDOT that we're dealing with?
If I understand correctly, that's how Lakewood administers it for CDOT. Is that what you're saying?
I guess it's like, yeah, I know it's like there's a couple layers to that.
Yes.
We can say CDOT, but there's people that manage the CDOT areas. So, okay.
Yep. And Lakewood said that they oversee the coordination with CDOT, which helps a little bit administratively.
Okay. All right. Any questions? All right. I'm going to close out agenda item 8. We're going to open up agenda item number 9, financial matters. Director Hooks.
Well, I have reviewed everything and it is pretty much status quo. And there was nothing on there that was of any concern to me. I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
I had a question, nothing of concern, and I think I've asked this before, but I can't remember what the answer is. What is the annual fee for drinking water for the office? Mr. Tyus, something different for,
I'll have to look it up. Annual fee for drinking water for the office.
Would that just be a contract for like did you have bottled water or is that just filtered water?
Just
What?
filter.
it was for Denver Water annual fee for the office location, it looked like. It wasn't like the metered thing. I didn't bring the line
It could
out.
be just the fee that Denver Water charges us, but I'll look it up.
How do you
I
find
just-
all these obscure off the wall?
agree.
I'm taking you on a treasure.
Annual drinking water fee, $865. Oh, the
Yeah.
Department of Health.
Oh, that's,
That's your certification.
yeah, so the Colorado Department of Public, so we have a public water ID number under the Colorado Department of Health. And so we have to pay a fee for that public water ID. In Colorado Department, it's basically a fee, so we're paying, we have to pay a fee to Colorado Department of Health because they regulate us as a public water system. So we have to pay that fee to them every year.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Good job, Jeff.
So I would like to make a motion to accept the monthly operating expenses and the capital expenditures. Also, if I can do it at the same time, make a motion to accept the unaudited financial statements and investment reports.
I will second that. Discussion?
No discussion other than, I guess you've noticed interest rates have kind of gone up the last month or two, so I just wondering if you were looking into other rates.
Well, it's interesting. So they have this safe core. When I first got here, we went over this, Dave, like, so because of the limitations as a public entity, we cannot really, and it has to be like the lowest risk, the highest safety possible before we're allowed to put money in it. So it really narrows what we can use. And so they have this safe core that we use. There's like 3 different areas of it that we can get our maximum. And we're kind of at, in a way, their mercy. And so Doug, the most that we can put, like, there's a certain amount we have to keep, that's available, then the other falls into those other categories. And the rates are going up because of the interest rates going up, but it's certainly, like, I was salivating when I came here thinking that we could have $20 million and I could be making, 6, 7, 8% return on it and doing all these wonderful things for our customers, and you can't.
I was just noticing, I was able to up my CDs a whole percentage point in the last 30 days. So
Right.
good deal.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been getting upgraded, and we do have limited availability to do CDs. And so that would be something that Doug would put in to move it in, but the amount of money we're allowed to have there is very limited in actual CDs, and then the rest has to go in like the long-term safe core.
Yeah, the C-safe though, we can, and Doug does a pretty good job about watching that, kind of, that's the conversation Todd and Doug had, that we'll start moving it into where we can, and it is surprisingly low, the amount. we
Yeah,
can
really
put in a
surprisingly
CD. I
low.
mean, it's pretty pathetic, really, what we can do with CDs, so.
Unfortunately,
Still more than nothing.
it is, but it's just so tempting for me because I know what we earn on our money at work. And it just, to me, it's lost money that could benefit the clients, so.
You want to make a footnote on that for the later discussion on something we'll be talking about. That would be something to take down to the dome, right?
Well, no, I see the reasons for why they're doing it, and I don't know if I would, I like the high safety factor. I just think we could be doing some CDs to Director Rubin's point, putting some in there, getting some.
Well, we are allowed and we have some.
Not anymore.
They closed.
He
down.
just got rid of the last ones.
Yep.
Okay, I thought we were looking at putting into the new ones.
We decided not to because it wasn't high enough. So, but everything
Okay.
it's more. So it's more than
Right.
0.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion to pass the financials, say aye. Aye. We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes. So I'm going to close out agenda item 9, financial matters. And we're going to open up the agenda item 10, directors matters.
Before we get started, can I throw in something? I was looking over the bylaws and stuff like that, And one of the things I noticed was that in section 8 of our bylaws, it lists what the agenda should be, and no big deal. But anyway, it doesn't have directors matters. It just has unfinished business and new business. Then I thought it was like, oh yeah, that's the way meetings are run. You have old business, new business, and why do we have directors matter? I thought that was kind of strange. Well, you know, I could live with strange, I don't care, but you know, the bylaws say we're supposed to do it this way. I'm just wondering, shouldn't we perhaps do the way the bylaws say to do it?
We changed, put a whole lot of sections in there. There's a lot of things that we didn't end up updating when we did the bylaws. And all of this change, all the sections that are outlined now are changed, like all the construction and the engineering report and all that. Same thing, what to include in the board packet, for that details out specific things to put in there, and we don't do that anymore. Because we don't have them on the agenda. We could do,
Like I said, the copy I have is June 14th, 22,
yeah,
and
we could do a bylaw update.
well, the bylaw says to do unfinished business and new business.
That's at the end of the meeting,
Yeah, anyway,
isn't it? I mean, don't we have that on there?
Yeah, there's new
New
business.
business. We just have unfinished business is all these other sections.
I think that probably directors matters is the same as reports of officers. Which is
Yeah.
Section 7. Since
We just started. And none of, didn't get all updated. We didn't want to do a whole bylaw, everything. So yeah, this is just how it was. Nobody was interested in doing and rewriting them, and nobody wanted to change the sections. If you're asking to change them now, we can go back. Nobody wanted to do that before.
well, I guess I'm saying the bylaws already
Say
say to
that.
do this. I'm just wondering, why do we just not follow the bylaws? I don't think,
My explanation was that we didn't know there were bylaws for so long, that nobody was following them for so long, and then nobody wanted to go back to that when we found them. So yes, we can do that,
yeah, even-
but when it came up before, the answer was no, just keep doing it the way we're doing it. Would you like to make a motion to go back to what it says in the bylaws?
well, things considered, yeah, generally a good idea to follow the rules. So yeah, if we need to do a motion,
Make a motion.
okay, I move that we follow the agenda in the 6/14/22 bylaws that indicate that instead of directors matters, we have unfinished business and new business.
I will second. Discussion?
So does that mean they'll be in two separate categories, replacing this one?
It's the way I read the agenda,
Okay.
or the bylaws, that's the way I read it.
Well, we already have new business. Right?
Yep.
So that's no different,
That's at the end.
and it's retitling directors matters as unfinished business.
Okay. Whatever, as long as it follows the bylaws, I figure we're good.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, all 5 directors voted aye, 0 nays. The motion passes. So we've amended the bylaw. We're going back. We're just gonna, we're gonna adjust. We are
agenda.
we're following the bylaws. We're changing the agenda. So,
Then I guess I need to make a motion. Darn,
is there any
I
some
didn't-
candy?
no, a director came out and put something on, not even on the agenda, made a motion and we all voted for it. This was crazy, not an emergency, Director Rick.
That's,
You're not following your own advice.
that's,
Horrible, horrible, horrible. And I fell for it too, and I just went along
Yeah.
with it, and it was bad, because now how the business is going is that if something comes up in between, then it gets put on under directors matters. So for example,
I withdraw my motion.
Okay, motion has been withdrawn. Would you, you could put this on the agenda?
Yeah, for next meeting, yes.
Okay, put that at the end. All right, so we're done with that. That was
Thank you
fun.
for staying correct.
well, it's not a big deal, but we need another section for things that come up, because it's not all unfinished per se. For example, when we have the specific person on this was different, you know what I mean? And the legal matters, and that would be legal, that's still coming up, but there will be cases when things come up in between the month. That was not unfinished, so we still need a new section for that. So.
I need clarification. I don't know what happened just now.
You need to go eat a piece of candy. Your sugar is low.
I think that's why it was called Directors Matters, to
So-
cover all those.
So the idea is to keep it as director's matters.
No.
This is what the bylaws say. And so
Okay,
at
that's
the
clear
next,
enough.
at the next meeting, I will be offering a motion to follow the bylaws.
Okay,
Kind of some process issues there. So cleaning up the existing, should be optimizing what we're doing.
Thank you
Trying
for
to
keeping
follow
me
our
honest.
bylaws. And then, as we talked about, we're trying to honor our own words, and Mr. Wickman did that, so he's withdrawn the motion. So now we're in agenda item 10, directors matters, and I think I'm gonna kick this thing off. So we invited all of our representative government for Green Mountain area that I could come up with to attend the meeting tonight. And there is a two-part reason for this. So we invited Councilwoman Barb Franks. She declined the invite. Councilman Rich Olber declined the invite. State House Representative Chris Kennedy declined the invite. State Senate Representative Jesse Danielson emailed twice, no response. Did we get a hold of Lisa Cutter? I had sent that. Did we send out anything to Lisa Cutter?
No, I did not.
So we did not.
Who is she?
She is the current SD 20 senator, I believe, who is also in this area. So I'm hoping I captured it all, but we did receive, and the director saw that, we saw a reply from Councilwoman Barb Franks, but I think she was kind of like missing the mark. She kind of started, in my opinion, telling us about stuff with water and those kind of things. And we're more concerned about what goes on under the dome and what goes on down there behind the paper hidden windows at City Council here in Lakewood, where, those of us, like we had the City of Morrison tonight, this is what you should do, is have communication, open dialogue with each other as you have business that affects each other. And I think it's a shameful display of government on pretty much all levels that I can see, that we have no elected officials that we all elected, or they're elected to represent us. And so we have, it's a sad state of affairs. That's just my opinion, that we have nobody that we elected representing us here in this room tonight. And we did have Katie Gill, which I appreciated that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's give her some credit.
Absolutely, I give her accolades all day long. So
Right.
this is leading us up to the legislation updates and lobbyist vote. We're going to be making a motion tonight, and I'm going to leave this with Director Morgan right now, but people have called me and I've talked to our constituents, those that wanted to have discussions, et cetera, about this, and trying to explain to them the logic behind why you probably need a lobbyist. And I think this is indicative, based on the results of the invitations that went out, excluding Lisa Cutter. But everyone's a no-show, and this involves look, this is important stuff. And you look at how the whole Lakewood vote on the IGA went down. There was no conversation potentially with us or people, and those of us that did attend the city council meeting, it was a slam dunk. You talked about, and I think Director Wickman talked about his time on city council. There seems to be, and those in the audience, the IGAs are significant legal contracts that people enter into, and to walk into a meeting and just make it happen is insane at best. So that's where Director Wickman talked about his scar tissue from those days. Come to the fast forward to where we are now, where we just we wanted to get involved and have dialogue with the Lakewood IGA Morrison. Lakewood did not. We had Morrison in tonight, thank you. But going forward, we don't want to continue to get blindsided with events at the city, county, and state level when our representatives don't want to communicate with us or represent us. So we're going to take the initiative, or I think we're going to be looking at taking the initiative to bring on a lobbyist to where it's not necessarily pushing our agendas, but it's giving us access to information that for some reason we should have, but we do not have. So I'm going to yield the floor to you. Is that a good kickoff?
That was great, yeah, I think, and then we've had a lot of discussion about this over the last couple of months, so. But you captured the point that we need to be proactive and get on, I think, and represent ourselves, because it's not always happening. So I'd like to make a motion to hire a lobbyist for the district to represent our views at the state level.
So I will second the motion. We'll open it up for discussion, and I guess I'd like to say this motion doesn't pick the lobbyist right now. We're just approving the board's direction to go forward. I'm going to be announcing that. That's the other thing tonight with the new business. I'm going to announce a special meeting that will be working the down selection of the lobbyist. Give us time to look at the candidates we have. And
Oh, you won't be choosing it tonight?
No.
Very good. You saw
Trying to,
you saw where I was coming.
trying to honor everybody. You know what? Look, collectively, we work together, listen to each other, do what's right, respect each other, you know, and then we move forward. So
okay,
that's kind of my discussion on that. I know Director Morgan will be making an additional motion or two.
There were 3 motions that I mentioned last time. I think we need to decide whether or not we want a lobbyist at all, pick a lobbyist specifically, and if we do, and then if we do, we need a legislative committee to work with them. So there's 3 pieces there.
So with that legislative committee, would we open that up to possibly the public, to where we bring somebody from the public in on that?
I would recommend no,
Okay, just asking.
but we could do public meetings.
Okay.
We could leave that.
Just wasn't sure. Okay.
Further discussion. Is this open-ended, or this motion in particular, there'd be a time limit, like we're saying, this is a 1-year trial, and is there a cap on the amount of money we want to spend? Do we include that in this kind of motion? I've looked at some of the figures in here, they're reasonable, but it can get expensive.
So Karen, why don't you hold on? Why don't you withdraw the motion and add those caveats in there? Because I think that's.
Can I ask one more question before she does that? So back to Roger's point, when they say this, you know, the retainer fee, is that just a base fee no matter what they do? But then if they spend X amount of hours, our fee is there, and is there additional hourly rates on top of that?
The retainer fee on the latest one, these are all different, and we'd have to talk to them, and we'd have to set our own terms on that. So I do not know, I wouldn't be able to roll the financials into a motion, but I would agree, yes, we should. It was for a 1-year trial, try it and see. So
Okay.
motion to hire a lobbyist for 1 year to represent us at the state.
But you have to withdraw and then re-motion.
But we won't be committed if we don't like the pricing. I'm just concerned about the expense eventually.
No, that would have to be approved with the person in that account. Because I don't know.
And I guess a corollary to that is if we say, yes, we're interested in hiring, does that tie us into, we have to get somebody? Or next month or whenever we're doing this, we can sit there and say, no, I don't like any of the 3 and just don't want to do it at all. Are we committed? We have to pick somebody?
I'm motioning to hire somebody, yes. Well, I've got to say, if we don't pick anybody here.
Well,
soon, we're
so
gonna be
Dave, there's a
losing it.
logic process. The first thing is, do we want one, yes or no? The second one is, we have currently 3 groups that I'll be asking for a special meeting to invite them in to talk to us. And if we can't get a down selection, if we shoot traps, then that's where we're at. That's like we're stalled, right?
Well, and
We've approved.
it would be analogous to sending out a bid. If you don't get any bids that you like, you don't do the project.
That makes sense to me, but like I say, just.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like a several, going through the process and stages.
Right.
One doesn't ensure everything's gonna happen, right, as you want it to. So that's why we're gonna break it into 3.
That makes sense, but like I said, I
Separate
didn't want to
motions.
assume anything, so.
Okay.
So motion is still on the table. I withdraw the first one, motion the second time. Hire a lobbyist for a 1-year trial.
And as part of that process, you're gonna send out your RFPs or whatever that gets your, or.
Well, I thought the
No.
way Jeff's explaining is we're having them gonna come in and do presentations to us.
Separate motion.
So the RFPs are already essentially done. And now we're just moving to the stage of, I mean,
Yes.
are we asking for any
Yes.
other than the 3?
Well, we have asked,
No, I have, let me tell you where I'm at, is that I asked you last time if you wanted to look, and you said, no, you were happy with Mark Wahlberg. Bring somebody else if you wanted to. I have been looking for people since March. This is a word of mouth industry. So we can, if you can find a job board, if you would like to do that, we can. This is what I have been saying for a couple of months. I have been looking, I have been finding people. The 2 out of the 3 people do not even have websites. You're finding them by word of mouth.
Wow.
That's what this is. The other people, everybody I found that has a website is working with developers. They're already representing them. They all have conflicts. They're the big people. That's where the money is right now. They're on the developer side. So I've checked them all out. I can find a couple other people. And they were up to 5,000 a month for a single person to represent you. All of these are teams with the 2. So if you have suggestions for other ways to go about it, that is what I would ask for if you need more time or anything else, because that has been part of this process.
I need to second your motion. We had a withdrawal.
Yeah.
We had a motion. I'm seconding that motion. We went in discussion without a motion, without a second.
Okay.
So I'm trying to correct that. And then adding on to listening to the constituents, like you said, it's a word of mouth thing. I did have, I had constituents calling me, and one had brought me this 3rd group that came in. So, and I had deferred them to talk to Director Morgan. She's been running point on this, so full disclosure, transparency, where that came from.
I just haven't got there yet. We're not at the
Right, so
but yeah.
anyway, so we have the motion for this. Is there any further discussion? No further.
Yeah, just one question. I'm just trying to remember. I can't, I don't have my notes or anything like, it seems like when I'm reading over things, I thought somewhere, and of course I get my governments mixed up. I thought I read somewhere that you had to do bids if there's a certain dollar amount and stuff like that. And I don't recall what, do we have that sort of?
We haven't crossed that threshold.
Well,
Yeah.
there's a $60,000 limit for
60,000.
construction projects. You have to send out construction projects for bids. There is no obligation in the statute or bylaws to send out services contracts for bids.
Okay.
Regardless of the dollar.
There you go.
But even with the dollar amount, I don't think we're not gonna cross that.
Okay, well,
Similarly to your concern, even if you did enter into a multi-year agreement, it would be voidable. If it was, take a multi-year fiscal obligation. So unless you budget for it, you don't pay for it.
Further discussion? No further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes.
So the next part was to hire somebody specifically. We had a couple of updates. Sounded like you were getting ready to say something about that. Do
You want to
wanna-
make the motion first?
No, I'd
Okay,
like to go through a couple of updates.
okay, sorry.
For example, we have an extra bid. Like Director Baker was saying, Due to an email that Director Wickman sent out, we got a third bid from Laura Boggs, who is a former school board representative. She is politically active in the district. So that is the third bid that came in last night after hours. So I have not looked at it, didn't know the people's names. I have not had a chance, and I know you guys haven't had a chance to look at it either. So what we want to do with that from here, there's a couple possibilities. We can not include them. We can include them if everybody's had a chance to look at it. We can postpone this vote until another meeting. Other options, what do you think?
I'm against postponing. We can just postpone everything.
So with
I
that,
would rather move forward. Personally, I would like to see it. I don't know if that's something that can be emailed to each of us.
well, I am gonna make a motion here now. So I want a motion for a special meeting with an invite to these three. I would like it as
Is
soon
it 3 or would it now be 4?
three.
It's just 3.
So is yours one of these?
Yeah,
Laura
these are-
Boggs?
No, that's the top one right there.
This is Laura Boggs?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know. That's what I was
On
trying
the
to
back.
figure out.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I was thinking we had these 3 plus an additional one.
Yeah, I have a motion here. I have a motion. Oh, sorry.
What was the motion?
Invite the 3 lobbies.
I have made a motion, I'm motioning to have a special meeting as soon as possible, which should mean 72 hours from tonight. To invite, and then we can invite these 3 groups to come in and speak. And then we will down select and we will have a down selection for the lobbyist. That's what that sole meeting would be about. Period.
What day is 72 hours?
Friday.
I really don't want to meet on a Friday night.
How about a Monday night then?
The notice requirement is 24 hours, so you could do Thursday.
Okay, I would like to go Thursday. So I amend my motion for Thursday.
48 hours.
So I have a second. No second.
I cannot second because I know that we will have problems getting them within 48 hours.
That's
2 of
my
them are on
concern.
vacation. And
I
I would
think we need
not,
to shoot for next week.
and then, I'm just saying, we have summer vacations, schools are starting. Everybody's a little bit cramped, because that's why I did invite them before, and I couldn't get all of them to commit, and I think it would be unfair to have just, especially on a short notice.
Okay, so the motion failed. I'm gonna make another motion stating the down selection of a lobbyist contingent upon the approval of all 3 attending the down selection meeting.
Can I ask? Okay, no.
Oh my- I
go
gotta
ahead.
go. I gotta eat some candy. I'm gonna. I'm kidding.
You made a motion.
No, I can't. Sorry.
No, I should not have.
So you're just saying when they can all meet with us?
Yes, I'm looking for the next best possible available meeting date when everything can happen.
So I will second it, but I can actually see Karen's point of if people have kids starting school and other stuff, maybe even next week's not a great week.
I will be gone in Arizona next week, so I know I won't be here. I know one of them, and I don't know how long, but on the ballot, Brett is on vacation starting this week, usually 2 weeks,
Well,
so they will be gone.
let me explain why I've got fire in my rear end here. It's been explained to me that we should be talking to them right now. We should have them in the pocket.
And
And we are missing out on critical legislative discussion time. They really need to be on the ground and operating currently.
it's too late by, they're saying, all of them are saying, it's too late by September, everything's getting solidified. Why do you need more information than what you have in the proposal? Can we vote without the presentation?
Ask the other directors.
I would, if we would like to put off this vote, I would suggest doing some research and contacting, especially since they're all they're recommended. Everybody knows that, everybody in this group. We know Laura Boggs and we know the Scott, they all came from somebody except for Amy. So I would suggest just doing your research on it, reading the proposals, and then having a down selection from there.
So could we do that Thursday night? I'm
We could
getting
do
lost
that
on where the
Thursday.
motion Is, so I think it still stands. Okay. And we had a second. Okay, we're in discussion.
Discussion. What is down, what down selection is?
Well, if you have 3 candidates, we just, the board decides who's the finalist and then we hire them. That's
Okay.
the down
So
selection.
we'd actually be
So it's
deciding
the
on
selection.
Thursday, okay. All right.
You're using too many big words for it, buddy.
Yes, I know.
But they're not acronyms.
They're not acronyms. I can whip some acronyms on you.
That would be a shorter meeting too. I think we could do
FICA,
that
yeah.
quickly.
Okay, any further discussion? Is that really muddy and cloudy? And
No, so the agenda item this Thursday in 48 hours will be to have a vote.
Select one of these.
1 out of 3. And we don't need to invite anybody, right?
No,
We don't need to.
we'll work off of the packets, do your homework, listen to your constituents or whatever they call you, constituents on the line or in the room, reach out to us, let us hear from you.
Because
would say this, maybe the public doesn't have vision on these, so do we need to post these on our website?
You don't have to, you can.
I think that would be a good idea that we post these on the website so the constituents can have full view of what we're looking at. So,
Transparency, good.
I have a couple before you vote under discussion here. And updates. Couple other things happened. So we have that one extra. We also had, I want to send around a copy of Director Whitman's email. You probably already have one, Director Whitman. Well, not as a director, but you can send, everybody's got a copy of the email that you sent out discussing this vote and the lobbyists. There's a couple issues of concern for me in this email, and I can't talk to them all, but top 2 issues are where, and I should have highlighted it for you, I apologize. But he talks about Amy Atwood on the 2nd page. She ran as a city council as a pro-development candidate against a slow growth candidate, which was Dr. Whitman. And I have issues with that from a couple of reasons. So I'm going to send around, this is the article summarizing your election, because I don't want to get into this pro-development thing. As you yourself just said in response to former Director Plotkin's comments, development wasn't on the table at the time. We didn't know metro districts. Solterra wasn't an issue. We weren't talking about development. There was no pro-development candidate at the time. If there was, we're going to look at your votes to see what was going on there. That was the actions. We don't know what she did. But it goes to the truth of what's going on in here. And that is important because you said last time, and I agree with you, that if everybody can act professionally and not hold their personal grudges or biases, then we can move along. And I don't think that was Amy Atwood's firm. I think that is looking like you. And that is a little bit important because, as I will pass around, this is an article summarizing your 2nd election where they talk about the hinge issue being 2090. And that was a development issue that Joe Timmons represented residents on. So if we're getting into personal biases and everything, I just want to put this in people's minds that I have evidence here. This is how we're not letting things go. Second issue that was raised in here in this email is this idea of construction and that being all developers. And I'd really just like to, I disagree with that. And the reason for that is not all construction people and not everybody who picks up a hammer is a big money developer, and it's just not true. If you would see in your proposals from Amy Atwood, she has previous experience in water and sewer. As a matter of fact, she did construction work on the pink pump stations. I have to look at her proposal that we've all been able to look at. But she worked here for Green Mountain and did water on 2 of our pump stations. And those pump stations deliver water to my house and Director Wendell's house and your house, Director Wickman.
I'm not saying she's a good construction guy.
All I'm saying is we can't say all construction is bad, and we have no idea what her idea on the issues are. But I think that based on the arguments that she's in construction and she was somehow pro-development before development even started, that this issue will be used to take the district down. Even if she's the best lobbyist ever, I think it will be used against, and I don't want to set her up for failure. So I would recommend taking her off the consideration list so that we don't have any future problems. Not because of anything that she's done wrong or that I think that she's not a great candidate. I just don't think we can handle it personally here.
I think we should just leave it there. We have 3. I encourage all the directors to do your due diligence, review this, reach out, talk to people, study, be prepared to make a vote Thursday night. That's my. Leave it as it is. That's just me though. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say nay.
I'm sorry, I didn't vote. I was just thinking, so no, I vote in favor.
Yes, okay,
Yes.
we have 5 yeses, so the motion passes. We will have a meeting 6 o'clock Thursday night for the down selection based on the 3 groups we've received information from. We will post this on the Green Mountain website, so you're seeing the same information we are. Reach out and talk to us if you need to. Those that know who we are, if you need to talk to us constituents. What's the third motion? What are you talking about the third motion?
We need a legislative committee.
Okay,
So we, and we can do that now. We can do that at the next meeting too. We're still running fast. Does anybody, we would need 2 directors to interface if we hired somebody. So
so I'd like to make a motion to create a legislative group of 2 directors for the district to manage the lobbyist. Do I have a second?
I'd second that.
So Roger Waddell has seconded, and we have discussion. I would like to suggest both Karen and Dave Whitman run this. I would step into it myself, but I think it's, I think both of you, you have some different opposing views, obviously. But I think we need the contrast. You don't want to have a uni type thinking. You need to be able to, this is new. Look, we are like blazing a kind of a trail here for water and sanitation districts. And I think it's, we really need to be cognizant of that. I think we're stepping off in the right direction, but we need to really put a lot of effort into this. And for those of you listening and in the room, the thought is we want to build this out beyond Green Mountain. We want to get a coalition with other similar water and sanitation districts. So I think we we've talked about this before. I think there's what, 1,100 and some in the SDA, and out of the 1,103, don't quote me on the figures, but I know I'm close enough. I'm grenade close. There's only like 100 and some districts that are like Green Mountain. And so the SDA tends to look at more, they reflect more of a metro district, not what Green Mountain is. So we're trying to look at hopefully getting some traction with maybe a coalition of like special districts, which would be people like Green Mountain Water and Sanitation Districts to join in possibly with this coalition. That's kind of a long range thing. We haven't committed to anything with anybody. We haven't had any discussions other than I've talked to some folks from Pleasant View. That's as far as I've gone, but we will, this is what that legislative group would start looking at, trying to, probably doing a lot of things. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'll let the rest of you.
We did start a letter.
Yeah.
And we have a couple lists of people to start with.
So I lost track. Motion was seconded. We're in discussion. So the committee, whoever that may be, you may not even be interested in it. I
Oh,
don't
yeah,
know.
I'm interested.
Okay. You would interface regularly with whoever this lobbyist is. Would you be able to report to us as a group? I know there's so many prohibitions with the opens meeting law. How do we know what they're up to?
It would be
I
an
mean, how do we,
agenda item.
so we just wait for each meeting to
Every
find?
month. Yeah.
Okay,
The thinking is that the month is just too long for an interval in between during legislative session, so the group could be a little bit more nimble.
but is there a practical and legal way for us to find out what the lobbyist is up to? Like through Director Tyus or?
If you like more written updates? More
Well,
than
I'm not
once a month?
requiring it, but anything, of substance
Oh, sure,
that we need to know about.
sure. Yeah, I would think,
But you can get that information to all of us
yeah.
as a group, so.
Yeah, sharing of information is not something that's restricted by the Open Meetings Act. It's discussion that's mandatory for open meetings.
Somewhat related to this, maybe backing up just a bit. While I'm researching these three candidates, am I allowed to contact them?
Absolutely.
Okay,
You can't represent or commit the board, but you can, tell them who you are, that you are a director and, you can ask questions, but you just can't commit to anything.
sure.
Is that correct? No.
Do you have interest in being on the board, on the committee?
It would interest me if nobody else wanted to do it, that's fine. I'm not competing for it. You both look eager, but if you're not.
I have been pushing for it for a few months,
Roger, I don't mean to omit you from that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Oh.
that,
I'm sure.
you
This is all so interesting to me. It's just, but I feel like my first year is kind of on the learning curve, so. This is good. You're welcome to it. If you get cold feet, call me.
Dylan, is there a problem? And I know there's a quorum issue if we had a third director involved in this somehow, or keep Roger.
No, I'm
Yeah,
fine.
you couldn't meet together, but if you wanted to have like a rotating committee. But realistically, the lobbyist is going to be, I expect, making oral presentations at the board meetings and providing written reports to the directors. So I don't think that there would be really a need to be a part of the committee.
I'm fine.
The committee is really going to be tasked with directing the actions of the lobbyist rather than receiving the reports.
Okay.
That's my expectation based on my review of the proposals.
Any further discussion? Okay, call for vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Yeah, 5 ayes, 0 nays. The motion passes. Do I need to, do we need, so are you two, I guess in that motion, you were encapsulated in that,
Roped in.
so you're in it.
Throw
You were roped in. Did you hear that beeping noise? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna get me, aren't you?
No, it is good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. I think it is a very positive step. I hope we can pick somebody, but. we can do a lot of good for the district.
So then we have the Denver Water Committee update.
We do not have an official committee update. I've had vacations and summer. But I would like to say that it is kind of a good thing we got this in play, given the Denver Water Agreement coming up sooner than we thought. I think we're gonna have to take a look at the assumptions and projections going forward in there. And I don't know if that is something that we can do anything with until we see if there is a new agreement or not. Can I ask for an update from our committee chair?
Absolutely.
Mr. Platt, would you like to add anything?
As I said, Nathan is working on his piece and mentioned briefly. And just the general perusing of the report, one of the, if it's interested the board this early on, one of the things that was kind of caught that they were water in general sense. They kind of say that they will support development, yada, 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 but one of the things that they base that on is the projections for the development. And I would encourage the board to kind of put those projections on. And if you can get in touch with them or and say, hey, can you show us some models or anything of that sort, that maybe.
Well, so Councilwoman Franks responded and was talking about something like that where we were 4% under, and then the slinky effect, it went 20% or something the other direction. So do I believe they understand their own metrics? No, I don't believe that, because it goes back to Director Morgan asking for what's our cap for the district, and she just got that 1,000-yard stare and they slung us some kind of a number that really didn't mean anything. So I don't think they're cognizant of exactly where this is going to fall. I am going to add that it sounds kind of like ringing the alarms that, you know, they're talking about this Colorado River Compact, and there will probably be a federal or state level emergency where they're going to mandate that Lake Mead gets filled up, which comes out of Colorado River, which is out of our, well, we don't get Colorado River, I think, for us, do we? So that's on the other side. Right. But there's Arkansas.
We do.
We do.
Yeah, so,
So that's what comes under.
yeah, so there's three tunnels. There's the Moffett Tunnel, the Vasquez Tunnel, and the Roberts Tunnel. And so all three tunnels are owned by Denver Water, so they pull all their water off the Colorado River Basin. So it comes from Dillon Reservoir, the Fraser River, so which eventually all flow into Colorado.
So at some point, and I don't know what that threshold is, Dylan, it sounds like people are, I think they're waiting too long to start notifying people of how bad this water emergency is, but I don't think it's if, it's when it's going to happen. And then what does that mean?
Yeah, I am not a water attorney. The water attorneys that I know have been worried about this for a long time, and no one, I'm not aware of anyone that has a real plan at all. So yeah, everybody's waiting until the shit is in the fan.
I know some people in the Colorado Water Congress, and they're trying to push California to stop. California's been overdrawing their share of the Colorado River Compact, so they're trying to force California to do something before the other states have to do something.
Well, the compact comes up next year, and
Well, yeah, but the Bureau wants a decision made between all 7 states by August, by next week. The Federal Bureau recommendation.
Well, there was 7. I thought there was only 4 or 7.
Now there's New Mexico, Utah, Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, California. So there's the upper Colorado River Compact and the lower Colorado River Compact.
so I think it would be good to maybe put something on our website where you've got Alex is looking at something with Nathan, you're up to speed. Maybe I think we need to be responsible to our constituents and say, this is kind of what we're seeing and hearing. What does it mean? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything good. So
that's, I mean,
it's kind of like brace yourself for bad news.
They'll
How
just take
bad
some
is
of
it
the
gonna
words.
be? We don't know, but it's coming. So,
We had some draft ideas, and again, I would rather not like state stuff without running through state dealing first, so there's no hot water for us, but you all just took some of the words out of my mouth, specifically on what Mr. Titus just referred to. That was, I think, one of the articles, which just a week or two old, where they specifically said that basically one of the hammers is dropping right now. So some of the assumptions that people have had as far what can be done and negotiated may go out of the window pretty quick once the federal government steps in.
yeah, they're gonna declare an emergency, and that's kind of like a martial law. I don't know what else to call it, but it's like a martial law at a water emergency level that they will do what they have to do what they're gonna do, and it's gonna basically put us all in a barrel. So that's it.
So generally speaking, unfortunately, as some things that were brought up by the current board and the previous board as far as exploring some creative ideas for securing water rights. Well, the shoe just dropped. So,
But you were always urging us to, politics just got in the way, but I'm glad to have you on that committee already looking, because this was always something you warned us about. So if there's anything we can do, I'm sure we'll do.
I
It's
think
kind
we
of
need to
up to
start
you guys.
posting it on the website. I think kind of an update from this group. And Jeff, you're up to speed on all this. I think maybe just a short, like we've got this thing coming up next week on the compact, and just update people. It's like there is no good news coming unless we get like some, like 57 inches of water over the next 30 days.
I would politely also suggest maybe reaching out and finding some friends of them or where to be when director. And I called them in the past, they were actually quite receptive to presenting information and discussing where they're coming from. So I would suggest not doing any finger pointing, just having a dialogue.
Well, it's not a finger pointing, but I think, look, we've talked about capacity issues, and we have X amount of resources, and we all have to be managing, we're the stewards of the resources, and, we have to be realistic. I mean, it's like, we're out of water, we're not running out of water, we're out of water. And then once again, I mean, as a Bear Creek Reservoir twice in the last 7 days, that algae bloom is unbelievably nasty down there. And talking with Dylan at the last meeting, and we got several lakes, Soda Lake, Bear Creek, and I think there's several other lakes around here now have this blue algae bloom. And I'm pretty sure we're doing this stuff. I don't think this is a natural occurring event, as far as I know. I think we have some.
Not my area.
Yeah.
Well, would it be beneficial perhaps again, because me as a citizen now, I'm only, people will not pick up, well, they will pick up the phone, but also be cautious about what they discuss. But would it be perhaps prudent to establish a liaison to Denver Water for a couple of directors to just go have a chat with them every so often? See where the needle is heading.
So we could meet with Denver Water. We do, every week. I could forward it to you more often too. Is our contact with Denver Water sends us the status of all the reservoirs and the rainfall and everything. I can forward it to anybody. I can forward to you, Alex. I probably have in the past. I can keep forwarded. If you want to go higher up, it would be higher than Denver Water, it would be the Colorado Water Congress. We could bring in, I know a representative from there that would be more than happy to come talk to us. And they, because Denver Water reports to the board too. And so that board has to answer a lot of questions also. So we could go, if you want, we could go higher.
Maybe if we get some room in the next, we got a lot of stuff getting ready to kick off with the water. It gets busy for us next month, right?
Yeah, because it's really up to the Colorado Water Congress to try to figure out how to negotiate with the other states, the Colorado River Compact.
Why don't we look at that sometime in January, maybe when the dust settles and we get 2023 put to bed, we can kick off the new year with maybe that. That sounds good. Do we have a motion floating out there?
No, it was just an update.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, it's
But
fine.
do you need other information, Mr. Tice? Would you be able to get from Denver Water their, what do you ask for, there are some projections?
Well, it's again, what does the board want to do? It's not really up to,
Okay.
I mean, how far, that specific part was what caught my eye early on. And I was wondering how deep does the board want to dig with it, I guess it's up to you. I'm not here to say go do this, it's just one of the things that caught my, what are those projections based on? Because there's been some recent publications and essentially video, whatever you want to call them, where people have gone as far as to question, what factors were used in those projections.
Well,
And this doesn't just go for Colorado, it goes again all the way up and down the river.
Well, obviously, their math hasn't worked out because we wouldn't be in the boat we're in if they were. In theory, that's what the reservoirs and mead and all that was designed to sustain X amount of population through droughts and curves, right?
Yeah, it was based on 16 million acre feet, now we're down to 13 million acre feet, so they missed it by 3 million acre feet in the past 20 years. So that's why everything dropped. So that's why I got to redo it. But so there's a distributor meeting with Denver Water next week, so I can pass that information on to everybody. And then also invite anybody you want. We invite our contact for Denver Water. That's part of that distributor meeting next week.
Okay, that'd be good. All right, anything more on the Denver Water?
no,
Thanks, Director Morgan. Thanks, Mr. Plotkin. We got D, new development. What's that? Where did that come from?
So the new development basically is leading into anything we have to do with IGAs. That could also, we're addressing with, we kind of addressed it with also with Mooney Valley, the ideas of where the wastewater is. I mean, that was perfect from the representative from Morrison, gave us the perfect, they're adding on to the wastewater plant in Morrison. Because the concern with the Mooney Valley development was, where's this wastewater going to go? And then we knew that City of Lakewood was working with Metro to see if they could extend it, but we know that the main Metro 36-inch transfer line that runs along Bear Creek doesn't go far enough to the west, so that it would be tough. Plus, they would have to cross our district and also Bear Creek. So we talked to Bear Creek.
Well, that was my argument with Lakewood. When you keep saying Metro Waste and you're
Yeah.
excluding Green Mountain, the only Metro Waste connector is us. So either you guys don't know what you're talking about, or you're trying to blow smoke up our
Yes.
backside. And either way, I'm not good with this. So, either get your facts straight or, which,
And we did talk to Bear Creek, doesn't know anything about it either. We contacted them, so it kind of ties into the idea of, when we have to renew with Fossil Ridge also. So,
that's why it's on the agenda.
yeah, so they're both tied together, the IGA and Mooney Valley.
All right. We'll get more into that here in just a second. So, and then the item E that I added to the agenda is the FICA, which I've already explained that. I will try and get you like some sort of modeling for that, and it just
Okay.
shows you the categories.
Perfect.
It should work for us too, it's just,
Right.
I think it just gives us a more comprehensive way of sorting and racking and stacking the capital projects. And you know what, it's kind of like it just stays in place. We don't have to recreate this every year. That's how we operate. That's how we fly, and that's how we determine stuff, rather than kind of like dartboard and whatever. So that's all that was.
no, sorry, because I was tacking on to you. I just wondered. Regarding the infrastructure replacement plan. So that was in your manager's report.
Yeah, so that was based on the spreadsheet just for planning for next year. So we took the priorities off of all the data we have, which we have tons of data, whether it be the master plan, the asset management plan, and the CDM Smith reviewed asset management plan. So if you look at that spreadsheet that was set up for 2013, it's based on this existing model of peak flow, which is Union, and then future build out model, which matches, and along with Kentucky. So that's why we just added that to 2023 as the priority, because they're over capacity, both based on what Merrick studied and what CDM Smith studied, presently and future.
Are you thinking, I was thinking that was in response to the infrastructure replacement and capital improvement plan that I asked for.
Yeah, that spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Yes, that's like a 10-year, that covers 10 years, but those two items on the other spreadsheet are part of that spreadsheet. That's just for next year's plan as a priority.
Yeah. And I appreciate you getting that out to us so fast. I do. But there's a whole lot of other things that are going on. So that's why I asked you to send out the old one. So we talked a little bit about how there's an infrastructure replacement. That's kind of, I think about it like maintenance, and that's what current residents do. And then there's the capital improvement plan, and that's capacity updates, and that's going to factor in future development, and it's going to be factored into system development fees. So we need two separate plans. They're two separate things. It's got to be long-term for both of them. It's got to incorporate all of the items for capacity and maintenance and infrastructure. It does not need to prioritize based on what development is coming, which is what I see here. So I think that you've got a couple ideas here, but we are not getting near the mark of having two separate plans that incorporate everything that we need. But we have talked about it at several board meetings now, and I don't think this is working. And especially with what you're saying, Director Baker, I think that needs to be incorporated as well.
Well, it keeps it all, you have an all up, the FICA plan is an all up capital plan. And what you do, you've got what's above the line, so we're budgeted for, say, 5 million for this year. So everything that we can put above the line happens. And it gets racked and stacked based on the algorithm that we come up with for the, correct, or the capital, or I'm sorry, facility infrastructure condition. And then it's like, yeah, and you should be able to see, it's like, if you look at the whole thing, let's just say we have 100 projects, and it's like, we already know to cover that, we're gonna need $47 million over 10 years or something like that. So you can kind of get an idea where where you're going. Now, does it work out perfect? No, but at least you get the scope of how bad it is.
That's right.
And how much we have to start working every year or we fall behind.
So, and I agree, and like the condition isn't something that even on the old plan was not included. So
I'll be getting this thing.
But I think that that would be a great thing. I would like to suggest we move this off of the board level and have another subcommittee to do that. And can I rope you into?
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring, if you'd like to be in on this, I'll pull Roger in on this, and then we'll work the FICA
Okay.
Spreadsheet, and we'll work with Jeff, kind of work as a group, and we'll start developing something better optics here of what we're doing.
Perfect. So I would like to motion that we have infrastructure replacement plan and capital improvement planning subcommittee that will incorporate your FICA plan. That will include Director Wendell and Director Baker.
I'll second.
Any
Discussion.
discussion? And I think that committee should be able to rope in all of the staff and an engineer. There's Terry already, there's HDR already. And then we have another bid out. So whatever work needs to be done to figure out what engineering.
Yeah, there's the what's called the bipartisan infrastructure law. So it's going to provide up to $600 million in water and wastewater projects just for the state of Colorado, but there's a lot of red tape with that. So we're recruiting HDR and Merrick to look at that to see how to go through all that red tape. So some of that money will be loaned out at low interest loans, but we really don't need that yet. But we could get free money at the federal level, but we have to go through the state of Colorado.
So that would also, on that FICA plan, we would work, Roger, where that's for the engineers, they will give us one of the columns on that spreadsheet would be their estimate for the capital expenditures on that. And then the color of money on that, if we were gonna be part of this.
Yeah, the bipartisan infrastructure.
Yeah.
If we could get
I mean, you can change the color of money on that. You can look at it that way. At least you have an idea of where you're heading, right? And what we're working on, who's working on it, and kind of having all up, it becomes a project then, so.
And then, yeah, and I would encourage you to look at the old infrastructure replacement plan. There, I think what they did out, there might have been a 20-year CIP. Some of these pieces are all in there, but the infrastructure, what we do is somebody does this and they ignore that piece, and we need to pull it all in there. So the water master plan projects need to be incorporated. And then, yeah, so ask somebody if you need help on figuring out what goes on what plan, so that we can build it into, redevelop those system development fees later on. That's the end goal for that plan.
We're gonna be talking about that. for sure.
Oh, yeah?
No, it'd be at the end. so.
Okay,
Okay,
so that was a motion. Did I?
okay, we discussion, so call for vote. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye, we have 5 ayes, 0 nays, the motion passes. So I'm gonna close out agenda item 10, directors matters. We're going to open up agenda item 11, legal matters. And I yield the floor to Dylan.
So there have been a couple additions to legal tonight. I'll take those up after my initial update. Just as a general course of conduct, I sent out my litigation update email earlier today. So you'll have all of the pleadings that were filed from the last board meeting until yesterday. There were 2 pleadings filed today that I didn't get an opportunity to review. And those are both in the Timmons litigation. So I'll get those out in the subsequent update.
Can I ask that we get a weekly update? There's way too many to be looking at
Of the litigation.
of the litigation stuff. Even today, or even if we got it yesterday, Friday, a weekly update would do me better.
I can do that. The red zone tank, I sent the letter out. I sent that to Kablaco, Merrick, and each of the reviewing experts. The essential demand was there is broad agreement that the liner failed. There is broad agreement that, well, there's universal agreement that the liner failed. There's broad agreement that it was moisture that was the proximate cause of the failure of the lining. There is not agreement among any of the involved parties as to whose responsibility ultimately the failure of the lining was. So my letter says, you guys figure it out. Pay us this amount of money. And I ran the numbers based on what Jeff provided me from staff and what my time has spent on it. The time I have spent on it and the attorney's fees and a rough calculation of the loss of value from the failure of the liner over the course of, I used the prior liner as the template for time of life for a liner. And really it's just, frankly, it's back of the envelope scratches to come up with those numbers, but it was 130,000 and the demand was figure out who's paying this and pay the district. So I got a response from Kablaco. They called me and said, you sent this to an old address. And I said, well, that's the address in the contract that notices are to be sent to. And he gave me an updated address. So I sent that out. So that should be, everyone should have received that by yesterday.
So Jeff, with that being said, there's going to be a lessons learned thing here. It's like, get back to the root cause of this. I mean, why did we even put a liner in this thing? If we're back to no liner, we went from no liner to liner, no liner.
Yeah.
What's the lesson learned here? And then we've expended all this money. I think we need to have some kind of a lessons learned for we don't, in our process as a district, we don't go down this rabbit hole again. There's got to be a root cause here. And I think we're getting, I think we're on to something, but it needs to be identified, and then we need to not repeat this somehow.
Yes, I think we need to make sure we attend all the designated training, because when we toured the new $600 million Denver water facility off 64th and Highway 93, we asked them specifically, did you guys line your concrete tanks? They said no. No, we don't line our tanks. So
I missed that meeting too. I was supposed to be there.
yeah, so we're
So is that just a good rule of thumb? Do not line the tanks.
Well, I can tell you, he just got that from Denver Water, where I used to work. We had a 1 million gallon water tank up on the hill, no liner. It's been there since 1957.
The
So-
tank is leaking.
Huh?
The tank is leaking.
You know, there's what they consider acceptable. There's nothing that's 100%. You're gonna have,
Well, concrete's porous, so you're gonna have some loss.
you're gonna have some, you just don't want stuff gushing.
I understand,
Everywhere we-
but I mean, if it's like a 1% or a point X, there has to be, I'm assuming, I'm not an engineer, but I would assume there's some acceptable amount of loss that they calculate,
So it went above that.
right?
I don't know that it did.
That was the original board discussion from the original, why they did the lining. There was something, they didn't know what it was,
Yeah,
and there was some leaking, they couldn't identify it, it was just more than usual is gone.
Hmm.
So that's why they couldn't like fix a crack, because it wasn't identified, so they decided to put a liner in.
So when the tank was drained, so the tank was, I mean, I was around for it, but the
several-
tank was completely drained
Couple of times.
and they found nothing of substance as far as like any flaws in the wall and the,
Well, there were some structure things, I think, with the exposed metal. They had to go in, because you had corrosion on that. And I understand that, that's gotta happen, a structural deal, but then you get into the level of the liner, right? And then you have the problem that we've all been educated on the liner. If you have wet concrete, you put a liner, you're gonna have this pressure on the backside. And what can work on that? It's like, that's way out of, it appears it's out of a lot of people's expertise or something like that, because we never did get it rectified. And we're back to where we were, I
Yeah,
mean, back to the future, right?
Are you remembering that there was not a leak, not loss of water?
my recollection is that the engineering recommendation at the time was that the liner was not going to address whatever the issue.
Oh, well, I
was.
can believe that, okay,
So
and we still did it.
there was some,
yes.
yeah.
There was
And
a
we
loss of
still did
water,
it.
we're gonna
There was
put a liner
some-
in
That's
and.
why you do lessons learned.
Yeah, so yeah, I think there's two lessons. One is, in real short, is paying attention to the recommendation of the experts. And also there's the failure itself. So strict adherence to contractual provisions. If someone had done the moisture testing, if someone had identified that the materials were improper for the conditions, maybe the lining project wouldn't have continued. Or maybe it shouldn't have been initiated in the first place because it wasn't actually designed to address the problem. It was just designed to address a problem.
and we did make a quality control and quality assurance sign off sheet for those milestones that you discussed in last month's board meeting. So if we do a project, we have a project checklist, and then we have milestones that are set for that project for people have to sign off on them to make sure those milestones are met. That was as directed.
That was in the process before, though. That's the thing. He had an escapement because there were milestones and checks and counterbalances and third-party checks and blah, blah, blah. And here we are. So that's why I'm like, okay.
So what do you expect to happen from this? And can they all just say, well, it's not my problem now? And then what happens?
They could. I would expect to get a formal response, a letter, not a check at this stage. I think probably the dollar amounts that we're talking about are not significant enough that this is going to ultimately end up in litigation.
What dollar amounts are you thinking?
130. I think that spread among 3 potentially responsible parties.
Pretty
Or if you
nominal.
Include the district.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, by the time they lawyer up, they'll spend that much money.
Yeah, I mean, district court litigation is
Are we-
minimum 50.
I guess I was thinking we had $1 million in the line. What happened to that expenditure?
That was the entire project. So that was the entire, the yellow zone, the red zone, and labor
Oh, okay.
materials.
Yes.
So the entire project was 980 or something.
Okay, yeah.
The-
So we might be taking back their profit.
There was.
I don't think
structural
we're
work.
actually,
There was structural work on. There's no denying that that had to happen.
right, that's what I'm saying, but I think on the overall project, they may just be paying us back their profit. Essentially, I don't think they're, digging deep like we're costing them $1 million.
Yeah, and there's not really legal grounds for a clawback of the entire contractual amount. It's just not, that's not how damages are calculated.
And that's why we have to do the lessons learned. I get back into the sanity check of this. Why did we even to have a liner? If it's like, there's no, as we've educated ourselves over time, I think I would say no in the future,
Yeah.
You're either looking at a repair or a replacement, but probably not a liner.
Yeah. And you compare it against the cost of the water loss.
Yeah.
How many, what is that?
$1 million is a lot of water
70
lost.
years, you're right, 70 years of water. I don't know what the leakage was. but-
A lot of money.
It's not on the agenda, but the 10700 West Exposition, I got the comments back from the developer's attorney. I think that she forgot to send them to me because she asked where my review was, and I said, well, I haven't got anything to review. And she said, oh, I thought I sent this to you. So I reviewed that last week and sent that out to Terry and Jeff Tyus and Director Morgan and Dave to look at. Most of their revisions were acceptable. They were incorporation of a separate district document that's also acceptable. There were some changes that I don't think are probably appropriate, and I've asked her to address those. The biggest change that they requested was a removal of the district's discretion to reject the project itself for any nonconformity, basically. And really the district needs that. So it's separate from the oversizing line. It's part of the development project itself. We did have a conversation where we addressed that with them, and I think that she just omitted that correction. So it's back in their hands. We may need to have a committee conversation with them, or it may be at the engineering district manager level now. And it might come back to me, so I'll update you when I know more.
This is on executive session. You had said that there may be those couple provisions to maybe not. Wait and see.
Yeah, I don't think that anything about it is privileged. So I'm comfortable having that discussion in open session. Do you want to do Fossil Ridge IGA, or do you want to do Big Sky motion to dismiss?
Well, let's go to the Fossil Ridge IGA, and I think, I'm speaking for myself, I'm pretty sure the board agrees. I think we'd like to get that rolling, and with the caveat that maybe keep it as is with no increase in capacity, whatever that is. We will extend the IGA, but we're not going to extend any additional capacity or anything beyond where we are now. Just stays static.
So there's the Fossil Ridge IGA was executed in January of 2008 for a 15-year term. And the obligation was that the district would reserve capacity for 1,727 EQRs for 15 years. And
What's
then
an EQR?
it's a equivalent, single-family residence. For wastewater. So this is only wastewater.
Okay.
No water, no drinking water is provided to Fossil Ridge through the district. When I last asked, there are 1,269 presently served. I saw in the financials that 27 taps have been sold, so I don't know if the 27 is included in that. But we're about 500,
Remaining.
shy of the cap. Yeah, well, not the cap, the obligation to serve. So it's an obligation to reserve capacity for that many single-family residence equivalents. The IGA, after 15 years, which is January 1, 2020, January 15, 2023, you may renew for additional 5-year periods. So I think that the proposal, as I understand it, is renew at a agreement to reserve capacity for the 17-27 until 2028.
That, yes, does that sound?
But just
reasonable?
the 500.
It's static. It's exactly what they're,
Well,
it's,
there's
we're not
Does it
gonna,
create any additional obligation?
no, there are 500 outstanding.
right, I think we have to, I think it makes sense to honor, stay with the agreement.
Yeah.
But no more.
And there are provisions in the IGA about the service area and expanding the service area and written agreements for that. I don't know, and it's my understanding that none of those things have happened, but I don't know that to a certainty. I haven't gotten that far into the process.
Now, if we renew it, can we charge more?
Well, yes, because there are system development fees imposed and you just increased your system development fees schedule. So I think fees are going to go up. I don't think that they're delineated in the IGA. I think it's probably with reference to the district's SDFs at the time of application. So I think the answer to your question is yes, but I will check.
And the more the better.
Yeah, as long as you're within the law.
There is that.
And there's also some fee recovery provisions. It is a pretty complicated document.
Why is it been our problem for fee recovery? I mean, that's not our problem. On their side, I mean, a fee recovery, maybe I'm not understanding this correctly.
I believe that there's an agreement that some portion of the system development fees will be essentially rebated to Fossil Ridge.
No. I'm not in favor of that. We're going down that road again.
Yeah,
This
well, I mean,
this is all this
that's,
Tabor stuff. I'm like, strike that, that's all red line. You know, that's.
So we're willing to go the additional 500, but no recovery fees.
Right, I don't want.
So then we are modifying it.
that would be a modification because
So then we
the
are
rebates,
modifying.
and I don't know if that's finished. I don't know if that's begun. I need to talk to him, probably Doug about that.
Like I said, I'm okay with honoring the existing structure, you know, but I'm not okay with extending or, especially that, I mean, that was one of the issues in the Big Sky deal, this rebate, Tabor. And
That is part of the agreement. As it currently
I
exists.
understand.
Can we eliminate that?
But we are, if we're renegotiating on a proposal from our side,
Hmm.
I'm saying strike that.
I agree with Jeff on that. The more we can shift to the developers, the better off we are.
Wasn't that the basis of the lawsuit?
I think so, yeah.
So
So
gonna
that's,
be-
I'm going to probably need to do a great deal more work on this.
That's why we're just kicking it off. Now, I don't want to have a 5-alarm fire right all of a sudden. I mean, we got time, so.
Well, but we can also just not renew the agreement.
You could,
Period.
you're bound to serve the residents is already served.
Correct.
That,
But I'm just saying, I mean, so we don't have to do any of it. I mean, we could let it lapse on January 15th.
possible.
Can you do an analysis of what the consequences would be?
I can.
Make sure I understood that comment. We have to serve what we got right now. But when their thing is up on January of 2023, we're not required to continue to serve them, are we?
You are not probably obligated to reserve capacity for unserved EQRs.
You're just gonna
Meaning the
service
new
what's there.
potential ones, not the ones we've already put in, we have to service.
Yep.
If you are providing sanitary sewer services to residences under this IGA, I don't believe that there's any way that you're going to just stop providing sanitary sewer services to those residences. Yes.
Well, it certainly reduces our bargaining power.
Well, we're dealing with the 500, remaining 500. What's our obligation to fulfill that?
I think you can probably not reserve, you can probably decline to continue to reserve that capacity.
What do you think the consequences would be?
I'm not.
That's what Karen brought up.
That's where we gotta look at the risk reward stuff. That's what he's gonna start working on, but yeah, I mean, that's all these, those are the bargaining positions, right? I mean, we could just say we're not gonna do it, let it lapse, and then we just manage the existing accounts over there. And then they come back at us and probably sue us or something like that.
Yeah, and I've reviewed the IGA, I've not reviewed all the whole litigation or the settlement agreement that came out of that. In this context, so there's additional wrinkles. No doubt.
Is this okay to be asking you to do? Is Scott's doing some of that? Is where's the body of knowledge that would make more sense?
I'll probably want to talk to Scott because he's got more experience directly with the Fossil Ridge litigation, but the agreement is what it is, independently of how it was arrived at.
Anything else?
I can continue to answer questions with, it depends.
I just think, I think we just have to get, I want to get the ball rolling where we're having updates and, getting ready for it, so.
And I will, well, do you want me to reach out to whoever represents Fossil Ridge, or do you want there to be a manager level conversation about this? Do you have thoughts on how to initiate this process?
I want to initiate it with you've kind of got some direction. I think we've given you something to maybe start framing this up, and we can come up with options A, B, C, and then does that sound reasonable to the rest of you?
To me,
I think.
I don't think we want to commit to anything further than that right now. I don't want to put more on your plate anyway. That's, I think that's a reasonable request, maybe.
so now we just have to let the big sky.
But
Yeah, Big Sky motion. to dismiss.
so, we just heard from Morrison, the Red Rocks and all that, they're gonna flow down, they're gonna increase their capacity on this. Goes back to when Alex Plotkin was Director Plotkin, and it was on the record that you could and should have flowed in downhill anyway in part of this thing. I think we need to be directing Scott to apply for a motion to dismiss the whole Big Sky thing based on you coulda, you shoulda, and you didn't. And this goes back to part of the story from this side of the district.
So I caught wind of this earlier, and I will talk to Scott, but that can't be done at this point. The appeal is, the Court of Appeals is going to determine whether the trial court's order was proper or not. Independent, we can't stop that.
Right.
We can't stop that. And as long as the Court of Appeals is conducting that analysis, until the Court of Appeals issues its final order, the trial court has no jurisdiction on substantive matters. putting aside the bill of costs issue, which is procedural, not substantive. If we filed that motion, the judge would issue an order immediately saying this court has no jurisdiction to enter any substantive orders, and it wouldn't do anything.
Okay.
So,
It would be literally a wasted motion.
it would be, it'd be, Scott wouldn't do it. It would be, it'd be frivolous, definitionally.
Well, so we've got the additional complications with the attachment of Joe Timmons to the Big Sky, where, what are we doing here? Where we had our attorney,
Yeah.
who's now a witness for, this is really insane, right?
Yeah.
Do we need to be looking at malpractice or something? It's kind of like, we're taking this on the short end of this, and now you have the attorney for, that used to be with Green Mountain is actually somehow co-joined with Big Sky and a witness for Big Sky. And I think that's got a lot of problems.
Yeah, she was identified as a potential witness for the bill of costs hearing, which is different from being a witness for. John Cody, my partner, was a witness for the district. He doesn't do anything, doesn't represent the district directly. Just because he had knowledge about the matters. Really, the question of malpractice is a good one. I don't think it's a live question yet. I think that almost all of these issues are going to be pertinent only when we get the order from the Board of Appeals.
Do we need to put in some sort of a placeholder or kind of start warming up the engines? Because, it seems like this gets to be a one-way, there's slinging stuff this direction and nothing's getting slung back the other way.
Yeah.
I think, if anything, I'd like to see us bristle a little bit, and like, you know what, you got these issues you better be thinking about over here.
Yeah. If there were a malpractice claim, probably the simplest avenue and maybe the most appropriate avenue would be in the federal litigation as a counterclaim. I can ask Bill, who's running that litigation in defense of the district, for his thoughts. My analysis before was that countersuing her is going to trigger insurance defense coverage for her under her malpractice carrier. So you're going to have, frankly, a better attorney representing her in the litigation.
I'm just trying to bring stuff forward, like I said, I'm trying to keep it out here in the open, but, obviously I'm not a lawyer, but, it kind of, I don't know how that doesn't look kinky to people.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So, okay, that's all I had on that, just in kind of, keeping it transparent for the rest of you. This is long and it's complicated and it's deep, so.
It would probably be beneficial too to have Bill come and just give an update to the board. So I'll see if he's available for the September meeting.
That's all I had then, Dylan, and the rest of the board on the add-ons.
The regular September meeting is going to occur during the week of the SDA conference. Yeah, I don't know if any of the directors are attending that, but I'll be there, so I'll be remote for that.
Okay. We don't need executive session tonight, do we? Any updates on the exposition?
I don't believe so. It was frankly a quiet month litigation wise.
Okay. I'm gonna close out legal, Dylan, if that's okay with you.
Yep.
I'm going to open up new business notifications for next meeting. So we have the one meeting we're scheduled, and I also want to put on for the September board meeting. We should be doing quarterly evaluations for the SDX or TAP fees, and I haven't seen anything come up. So we need to reevaluate that, and if we need to go ahead and make adjustments or increases, we need to be prepared. So I guess we need to put out a notification.
Yep.
Put a notification of potential TAP fee increase for September board meeting, and then put that on the agenda, and we'll look at our algorithm we built. That's all I have. Sam, are you gonna freak out if we get out of here at 8:35?
It was best to celebrate.
He's like, please God, please God, please.
Sorry, were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna say my motion about the agenda, should we do that on Thursday or want to do it next month? I mean, there's no urgency one way or the other. I don't care.
That would be the time you could put that on for the next.
September,
Yeah,
September's fine, yeah.
for the bylaw modification. Okay, any other new business or notifications?
Yeah, I had another question. Mr. Tice, when you were talking before, I forgot to follow up. Did you say that you had, that two companies, the two engineering companies are looking at those grant things? Are they doing the same thing then?
So, yeah, I think all engineering companies are looking at this amount of money that to shuffle through the red tape, because what happens is you have to fill out all this paperwork through the Colorado Department of Health, so we're navigating that. So we're working, we have a meeting with HDR, just a half-hour meeting to see how to navigate all the paperwork that's required, just to get going on it. So the first document we submitted was a survey that we can submit, and then after that is a lot of other documentation that's required to use engineering firms to submit. So we just got the ball rolling on it.
Could we maybe get a report, I don't know what the best way, or have a discussion about how you're dividing up the labor for next time, so that we don't have too many redundancies and having both American and HDR different things?
Yeah, we're not attaining any cost yet. So we're just opening the discussion on how to fulfill the obligations of the documentation for both the Colorado Department of Health that have to comply with the EPA federal level. So we're not being charged yet on doing it.
Okay. Other thing, I don't know if we need to have a board discussion. I don't think so, but I'd like to make everyone aware that if there's something that we need to do to help train or change processes or do something, that we bring that up, make a list of questions perhaps. Since I was reading Dave Workman's emails, when you say things like, I don't know what's going on with this new development, it could be nothing, but it could be everything kind of thing. I mean, that stirs people up to thinking. And maybe that was your intent, but as a director, we can find out with a phone call, what was that, you know? So if you have any problems with getting information, or you don't know what to do, or if we need to change something to make it easier, you know, let us know if we should put that on the agenda or something. But I just want to, it's a phone call away, everything should be, so.
I don't understand. Maybe I finally hit a wall and sugar's kicking.
Dave Wickman sent out an email that said that there's an agenda item saying new development, and he doesn't know what that was, but he won't be voting on anything because it's not
Okay.
It's not spelled out here.
Gotcha.
So when I read that, I hear, oh my goodness, there's a new development thing show up at the board meeting because you don't know what's going on. And if the director doesn't know what's going on, then it must be big and they must be hiding things again. And I don't think that's what was going on here. And I think it could have been alleviated with a phone call, is my point. But if we don't know that we can make the phone call, maybe it was just a misunderstanding that you don't know. Everybody puts things on the agenda. So I didn't know what that was either, but I just figured it was not a big deal.
Good point. All right, anything else?
Two things. You can't raise fees at the next hearing, at the next board meeting. It's only 28 days from now, and you need to provide 30 days notice.
Okay, 1st October then.
And Mr. Plotkin provided me his typed comments. The conclusion of his comments was a request that they be entered verbatim into the minutes. I'm just going to give these to Jeff to provide to CRS.
Does anybody need to initial that or anything, or?
You can just take it up in the minute when you approve the minutes at the next meeting.
Okay, and we have everything signed, you need it signed, checks are done.
Yes.
Minutes are done,
Yes.
nothing else, no.
That's it.
All right, anything else, any further ups, downs, lefts, rights? I'm going to motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second discussion? No discussion, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, we have adjourned at